Hello. Welcome to the Global Footballer Podcast. I'm Monish. With me are Deepak and Arafat. We're going to discuss about Manchester United and how their win against Aston Villa finally put them ahead of Newcastle United. Deepak, first to you. Let's discuss about how Manchester United are playing this season.
Thanks, Manish. Last podcast I did say we are not the same. Newcastle United were 1 point above Manchester United. That is no longer the case. You guys are above us. Well done. Congratulations. It looks like we are having a mini league of our own, losing the most amount of matches. I think at some
It's
point
like one
everybody
of
else will
those
catch
slow
up.
cycling races. Who can go below the previous team?
Exactly. We blasted Chelsea so much during the whole year, and Chelsea are just 2 points off us. So yeah, I think Manchester United's form, specifically speaking, has been chaotic the whole season. You guys have not had a predefined way of playing, and that's been quite apparent the whole season. And I think that showed in the win against Aston Villa. Nobody expected you guys to win against Aston Villa, and nobody expected you to get a point against Liverpool. But those two teams you ended up getting points against, and then you go to Nottingham Forest and lose. And it honestly speaking, I don't think it was much of a surprise because you'd expect that team to fall apart at any point, and that team just plays in sort of moments, and that's always been the case. I feel playing in moments is a dangerous problem when you are a team like Manchester United because your fans don't expect that. Your fans expect you to play consistently. The players coming to Manchester United expect you to play with a certain style or a certain sort of competence, which does not seem to be happening. Um, and I have always said this about Erik Ten Hag, but you'll have different opinions, Monish. Do you
So the
think?
thing about playing in moments, I mean, attackingly playing in moments, I'm okay with that as long as those moments happen once a game. If you remember uh, the Galacticos when the original Ronaldo Nazario, the best player that I have seen on TV live at least, whatever. I mean, he was there, Zidane was there. They didn't really, I mean, they had a style of play, but it was also this moments of individual brilliance that they brought in. As long as there's defensive solidity. The problem with Manchester United is the lack of defensive cohesion, and the only game they showed a compact, strong defense was the game against Liverpool. For all the way, I mean, your teams recently played against Liverpool, and you know how they are. But for all Liverpool's attacking attributes, they couldn't beat Manchester United's low block. And I'm not saying United were lucky that game. Liverpool didn't get a sniff at goal. Let's be honest; they didn't really have too many chances. So considering all of that, they have the capacity for it. But what happens? You also need to remember in that game we had a few important players who were injured, and that's what helped our defense. Uh, as soon as they came back, it helped our attack, but our defense had problems. They play sometimes go out of position. Some of them try to run behind the ball and don't stay in their position while tracking back, and that's becoming a problem as well. Eric Ten Hag, I agree with you, but again, the fact is, this team, this squad with Eric Ten Hag, I expect that they can reach fourth or third. I'm not going to expect them to win. Like I mentioned with Mikel Arteta, at this particular position, I don't expect this Arsenal team to win. Their best would be fourth or third. But the problem is again, unless the players come back, I still won't put it past him because he still hasn't had the players he has, and he wanted or whatever. The one big glaring problem has been Anthony. Everyone just goes and points out, oh, the way Anthony was bought for this sort of fee because Ten Hag wanted him and Ten Hag should have been smart there, which I totally agree on. But even Ten Hag had once mentioned that yes, it was more than what he wanted to get him for. Uh, Otherwise, the signings last season they looked amazing, and this season, I mean, Martinez had a bad start to the season and he then got injured. Same with whatever Casemiro, he had a horrible start. Holland, for all the plaudits he's receiving, he's not really scoring goals. He scored one goal in the Premier League. That's about it. Sancho, even before he was benched, he's just been, he's been had two good games and then he goes back into a shell. I still think there's a good team out there. I think right now I wouldn't say anybody else should coach this team at least till the end of the season, and we have to see how it goes from there. Arafat, what are your thoughts about Manchester United and
Hmm.
Eric Ten Hag?
Yeah, I think last season Erik Ten Hag did a did a great job, maybe a phenomenal job with, especially with Ericsson and Casemiro and Bruno. But I but last season they were probably, they papered over some cracks because of Rashford's form. This season, it's Rashford's form which is looking like a huge liability for United. It's not just his scoring form, but also his defensive work
Defensive
rate has
form.
been very, very poor. And maybe work rate of players like Bruno, who is easily the best player in that team, is also questionable at times. Defensively, yeah, I think injuries have affected them a lot. And Amrabat is looks nowhere close to uh, anywhere good in that role. So these are the issues, but I feel maybe with the new management structure, maybe there is something to look forward to if he takes on some footballing decisions and gets they have enough money to spend. So I'm sure they'll bring in the players that Ten Hag wants. What do you think with the change in management structure? Do you think United will go for players, and who
The
do you think who
problem the problem
they will
Arafat
target?
the problem Arafat is not been the intent or even the identification. Recently, no player really wants to play for Manchester United. That's the problem. Honestly speaking,
Yeah,
they don't believe in this. Now, maybe with the new management, as long as they present a good vision, maybe with a footballing director, post from Newcastle United or something of that sort. But I'm just saying, whatever it is,
yeah,
unless you give a vision to a player, player's not going to come. They wanted
yeah,
Frankie De Jong. Everyone knows he's a great player. He didn't want to come.
yeah,
They wanted so
yeah,
many good players, but they just didn't want to come. And now United knows that most of these players, like
But
people are
even the
asking why you didn't go
alternatives
for
you've gone for have been quite chaotic. But
the
yeah,
that's symptomatic of a
alternatives.
club. But that's
Yeah,
symptomatic of a
but
club which, as you said, does not have a managerial structure in place. Like you don't, as far as I know,
yeah,
you don't have a CEO, you don't have a sporting director, you don't have an
we
operations
we
director,
have
and you do not have a head of
uh,
scouting.
s- no, we
Um,
had a CEO,
Richard
but yeah,
Arnold, who was there, who is leaving or has left his resignation there, and
yeah,
nobody's picking it up. So with when a club does not have those major positions filled, like what can you expect? You cannot expect a well-oiled machine to really identify targets or even beyond the first primary targets, target number two, three, four, five. If
yeah,
you don't get that, there nobody's doing it.
yeah,
And Ten Hag
exactly.
is reverting to type, which I think is a dangerous thing for a manager. You talked back about going for players which he has coached before. And that is, in my opinion, a problem because it shows that he doesn't have a wider view of global football and he's reverting to players whom he's worked with before and are comfortable with them. Um, but perhaps that's not
Uh,
his job. It's somebody else's job and there's nobody else
and
doing it.
also, the players he has worked with before, some of them don't want to come back to him. The ones who do want to come for him are not the really good ones. If you just come to look at it that way,
Yeah.
I mean, case in point, Frankie De Jong or many of the other players who have played for him before. So yeah, but Erik Ten Hag is not a bad coach. He has a style of play that he wants to play with. He doesn't have the
yeah,
players. He has some
yeah,
prima donna players now. Rashford has just been a shadow of himself, and when he doesn't score, I mean, he doesn't go
yeah.
back on defense, and that has been a problem.
And the issue with Hoyland, I feel, is maybe he's just not getting enough service into him. On one wing, Anthony, who's not really doing much. On the other wing, Garnacho or Rashford, both are kind of players who you feed the ball into, and you expect them to dribble past or something, and then get the bottom right corner or something like that. So
Uh,
there's probably not enough going into Hoyland.
that's true, but see, he's
Yeah.
getting into good positions and not the service. But
Yeah,
if you
But I
remember
don't
Thierry
really agree with your
Henry's
point, Monish, on what you
no, I-
said about him not having the players. He wants to play a particular way, but not having the players to do it. I don't think that's a good excuse now when he's been there for almost 2 years. When people like Ange Postecoglou has come in, people like Unai Emery have come in, people like De Zerbi have come in, and Eddie Howe's not anybody's, is not the flavor of the month now, but still he has done it later. managers in the league who have had lesser time than Ten Hag and have put into place the way of playing with far inferior squads and with far less money spent across
The
all these
see
managers.
the problem there, Deepak, is that there are still some players who have a lot of say or a lot of clout, like Marcus Rashford. It's very difficult to drop him. There's going to be a lot of questions asked if you drop him as well, although he has not been playing really well. Even the fans have agreed on that. But before, I mean, he should have dropped him 5 years before he did, I think, and gave some other reason for it. So, United have
But in
these
my
prima
opinion, that has
donnas
been
and these
Ten Hag's
picks.
strength because he doesn't really care about what other people think. He's not afraid of making those big decisions. He showed that with the
Uh,
Ronaldo saga
yeah,
and with benching Sancho. He's
he did
not
all of
really
that.
afraid of making big calls off the
Yeah.
pitch.
But when he benched Sancho, he got a lot of blowback, and at that time it became very difficult to bench Rashford because if you know the social media chatter, all of it was, oh, Rashford is not playing well because of what Ten Hag did to Sancho. Rashford doesn't want to play for Ten Hag. I mean, it's a different ball
But
game now.
last year, I think he disciplined Rashford for a game, and he
He did,
came
he
back
did,
in excellent form. So
he did that.
I think,
This
yeah,
season
Ten
too,
Hag
he gave a.
can, his decisions can get the best out of a player. But do you think he's, a good coach but not a great manager, or the other way around,
I think he's a good manager. I'm not sure about his coaching ability.
coaching ability?
But more importantly, what I wanted to get back about Holland, because you were telling about the delivery and everyone talks about the delivery being bad. But I still remember what Thierry Henry said in that fantastic podcast when he mentioned, "Oh,
Yeah,
I'm not going to get the ball here, but you need to realize this player's
yeah,
strength is looking down and walking in front. He's not going to look up at where you are. So you have to be on his eye
true.
line. So if you're with Garnacho, you don't go front. You're not going to get the pass in front of the goal. You're not going to get the cross. You come
Yeah,
front, you cut back in because that you can actually get a rebound.
But
You
yeah.
need to
who
have
Like
told
help your
Henry that tip?
teammates.
Who told Henry that tip, Monish? It was Arsene Wenger who
yes,
told Henry that. And it's
exactly.
Erik Ten
But
Hag's
Yeah,
position to tell Hoyland to make runs accordingly
but
and
now in
coach them.
social media, Deepak, now in social media, even we know that tip.
We do, yes.
We just don't have the body, the skill or the mind for it, but we know what to do. Anyways,
Yes, that makes us social commentators. And I think the one point about Ineos coming in is, in my opinion, I think that's probably going to be quite good for Manchester United, at least in the short term, because it will give a shock to the management side of the club, and they will potentially hire people to fill those vacant major positions.
managerial
Um, uh,
posts. Yeah,
yeah, managerial positions, which are very much needed for effective functioning of a club. And my worry is, so obviously you'll poach Dan Ashworth from Newcastle United. There's
yeah. I was going to
growing
I,
ask
I
about
rumors.
that.
just,
Yeah, there are growing
I just
rumors
want.
growing stronger.
But I just have one thing, like as a Manchester United fan, I just want the club to stop worrying and going back to trying to reclaim Sir Alex Ferguson's glory years. It's
Yeah.
time they get out of that rut on trying to look at the players that were there then and getting them
That's
into
down to
some
your ex players.
roles.
Every single
Not
conversation
just
with
the
all your
players.
big ex players in the media, Gary Neville's, the
I'm just tired of all
Groykeens,
of it.
Yeah,
everybody goes back to in our time when we were playing, when Fergie
yeah,
was there. Like, what's the point of bringing that up in every conversation?
Yeah.
We don't hear Liverpool fans talking about when Dalglish was there or when Nottingham Forest talking about
He came
1980s. Yeah,
again and he
Liverpool
messed
fans
up, didn't
probably
he?
are more, uh, you know,
I mean,
more
that's much
susceptible to
older.
talking about Dalglish, but still, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
there are eras for every club, and Manchester United's era under Sir Alex Ferguson was incredible. Was one of the greatest that the Premier League has seen. But it's over. There's no
And it
point going
papered
back.
over cracks. I mean, I think from 2008 to 2012, there was not much investment done on Manchester United on the players as it should have been on the training ground or on any other aspect of that club.
but he
And that
got
paper,
the
yeah,
best out of whatever he had.
that's because at the end those players were so used to winning. Every team that came to Manchester United when they came away to Old Trafford, they only thought of getting 1 point, wasn't it?
Yeah,
You're
Everyone
right.
was
yeah,
just mentally. There were times
Mentally
when a
taxing for
relegation.
oppositions. Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah,
And see, for example, if United had 3 games during the Christmas break, If two of them were against relegation threatened squads, those teams would just put their second string players because they're like, what's the point? You're going to lose this anyway.
Yeah,
That's
the
how
fear
it
factor
was. I
was
mean,
there about Manchester United, and that fear factor does not
exactly.
exist today.
And that
Y-
helped paper over the cracks for another good 3-4 years, which
Yeah.
as soon as Sir Alex Ferguson retired, I mean, so that's what the rut was even then. When Mourinho came and
Yeah,
said the rut started from then, it's true, it was there. There were no bias. Anyways, that's a different whole other conversation. For now, I think all United can do is pray Erik Ten Hag stay. I mean, pray that Erik Ten Hag can get the best out of these players. Casemiro and Martinez are back in training. There's some news about getting Werner. I don't know why, but at least maybe he runs around a little bit. We need a striker who runs around now. But we
that's
need
what we
we need a
need.
different.
Another Chelsea flop.
No, but honestly speaking, we do need another striker. It's not working out with just these.
With
I mean, although
Hoyland,
people
yeah.
say Holland and this and that, but we need somebody who can be there right in the middle and try to get the ball around, I think. Because Mason Mount is
Yeah.
going to come and do nothing for some time. I mean, all of these guys are going to come back. He is the biggest flop signing, not Anthony, I would say, from what I can see so far. Anthony may not create anything, but at least he does his job defensively, or and some of the games he does do decent job. He's a decent mid-level winger, but Mount had been atrocious, and he was even taking the corners and free kicks and messing it up. Anyways, that's it for the Manchester United rant. Thank you. Like, share, and subscribe. Still over Newcastle United.